Hello, and I am back with yet another video essay. And in this video, I'm going to explore what hexes and curses are in movies and what they represent in real life. So please stay tuned. I was so excited after watching Jordan Peele's hit horror and suspense classic Get Out. And I was excited that there were so many more people tackling the horror genre. I grew up reading horror. I love horror. And I was always a fan, and I was so delighted to see the influx of movies on television and, of course, in theaters. While there were some that were a disappointment, I'm not saying any names, others were an absolute gem. In fact, movies such as HisHouse on Netflix is a classic that indeed should be treasured. To many people on the outside, the movie HisHouse is about two refugees seeking asylum in the United Kingdom. But to spiritualists, the movie is more about two people escaping the curse of a witch and the dueling spirits that are hell-bent on destroying them. So in this video, we're going to talk about curses, how to remove a curse from your person's home and ancestral line, and we're going to do this by analyzing Remi Weeks' classic hit, HisHouse on Netflix. So you guys want to stay tuned for that. Now, it's important to understand that the physical world emulates the spiritual world. What does this mean? Well, it means that both of these worlds mirror each other. So if there is destruction and anarchy in the physical world, naturally there's going to be destruction and anarchy in the spiritual world. The movie HisHouse opens up with Raelle and Bowl, the two main characters, and they're both seeking asylum. And thus they're being chosen. They're one of the chosen ones, one of the good ones to stay in London. Their caseworker makes it very clear that they are not citizens. Rather, they will live in abject poverty with a measly stipend with stringent rules to follow. And if they break these rules, they'll be sent back to their home country, Sudan, to face the fate of dying in a perilous civil war. Now, many of us living in the United States or even in Europe have heard of all the awful tales of dueling tribes in African countries. We've heard about genocides and countries that were once thriving being torn apart by hate, greed, corruption, and yes, even nepotism. However, what we don't hear about is the spiritual side. There's a spiritual aspect of this. And the spiritual side is that there are millions of disgruntled souls or spirits that are wandering around the continent. And sadly, many of these distressed spirits are even buried in the Atlantic Ocean. You see, our ancestors had very specific rituals for burying and honoring their dead. However, with colonization and slavery and genocide and dueling tribes, many people are dying from gruesome deaths. And as a result, their souls are not lifted into what we would call the heavens. Instead, they're being forced to live in the realm of purgatory, caught between two worlds, the worlds of the living and, of course, the worlds of the dead. Now, the irony of this movie is that Bowl and Raelle weren't just refugees. All the spirits that followed them from Sudan were refugees as well. In fact, there is one scene where Raelle is being examined by a doctor or a nurse. And in this scene, she confides that she carved tribal markings into her own skin. She did this in an effort to survive. And she learned that belonging nowhere was her ticket to staying alive. Now, in a flashback, but I also believe that this was Raelle's vision, we learned that virtually everyone at the school that she attended was massacred. Raelle, who hid in the closet, was spared. However, the horrors of a civil war were evident, as we see and hear gunshots in the background, with hundreds of Sudanese running to seek cover, not only from the bullets, but also looking for ways to escape this war-torn country. Now, the next scene, we see that Raelle and Bowl are both boarding the bus, but they are denied passage because they don't have a child. This is when Bowl decides to grab another woman's child. She's a young girl named Nyack. Bowl and Raelle claim that the little girl is their own, climbing on the bus and leaving Nyack's mother shrilling and screaming and chasing after the bus in bereavement. In a few other scenes, we see them all boarding a motorboat, making this feeble attempt to navigate the tumultuous Atlantic Ocean. only the motor burns out, thus sinking the boat, causing a great deal of Sudanese refugees to drown, including poor sweet innocent Nyack. Bowl and Real and a few others fortunately are rescued and thus are placed in asylum, and that's when the movie begins. Now, they're taught to be grateful, and they are a bit overwhelmed to learn that they will be staying in a huge row home equipped for a giant family. Only the house is infested with bugs and rodents and faulty plumbing and shoddy electrical work. But Real and Bowl are content on making this new place their home. However, it's only a matter of time before the walls start to whisper. Bowl sees visions of Nyack and the witch who has her soul. Now, many people believe that this is a movie about ghosts. They don't understand that it's actually a movie about witches and ghosts. You see, many people believe that it was the ghost of Nyack who haunted Bowl and Real. However, I believe that it was the Night Witch, also known as the Apeth, who used the soul of Nyack as her pawn to trap Bowl's soul. You see, our ancestors believed that many witches had the ability to control distressed and disgruntled souls. They could use these souls as their footmen or their soldiers to torment their victims. At least this was the case between the Apeth and the Night Witch Bowl. The Apeth used Nyack's spirit to bring about feelings of remorse and grief. She even whispered to Bowl's wife, Real, telling her that her husband had a tremendous debt to pay. And the Apeth told Real that they would continue to suffer. They will continue to be tormented until Bowl offered the Apeth his blood. Bowl seeks to confront the Apeth, realizing that it didn't have any real power to hurt him. It is then that Bowl realizes that she has taken control of all the distressed spirits from the boat, and she is harboring all of these spirits in their new house. The Apeth is indeed powerful and will continue to use these distressed spirits to haunt and torment both Bowl and his wife Real. And she or he will do this until Bowl decides to spill his blood, until Bowl decides to give this Apeth his blood. Now, Bowl, feeling very defeated, he surrenders to the Apeth. He surrenders to the Night Witch, slitting his arm so that the Apeth could take his blood and thus use him as his host. However, Real comes from behind, slits the Apeth's throat, and then lays claim to the house, saying that she is going to make London her new home. But what Real really means is that she is going to take control of all the distressed spirits that are in her new home. The movie naturally ends with them standing in the living room, looking quite sane and looking good, for lack of better words. And the caseworker is asking them about the rats, the ghosts, the nefarious witch who haunted them. And this is when Real responds. The best thing to do was to let them in. And that, my friends, was probably the best way to end this movie. Curses are brought about by distressed spirits and distressed souls. In many situations, they are controlled by a witch, but sometimes they're just riding solo. What they do is they feed on our suppressed emotions, our suppressed thoughts, our desires, our shadow side of self. They work from the darkness, which means they work from the subconscious mind. This is why there was this differentiation between light and dark, where the spirits were only attacking Bowl in the darkness, and he couldn't see them in the light. They prey on your darkness. What they do is they prey on you, causing you to ruminate, to have these dark and distressing thoughts. And in extreme cases, they can even compel you to do horrible things to yourself and others. Many people who are cursed feel like they're spiraling down this path of destruction and despair. This is happening because the spirits are feeding on your energy source, whatever you want to call it. As a result, these spirits are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and you, my friends, are getting weaker and weaker and weaker. In Bowl and Real's case, the ghosts or the spirits fed on your feelings of guilt, their feelings of shame, their feelings of remorse for stealing another woman's child and thus allowing her to drown. The ghosts did this because they themselves are refugees. They're looking for a home. Now, what do you do to remove a curse? You have to be stronger than the spirit. In truth, you really can't remove a curse. All you can do is rise above it. And you can do this by starving out the spirits, starving out the negative thoughts, starving out the ruminating thoughts and those terrible emotions that are crippling you. And when you do this, you're not giving the spirits anything to feed on. And so what does this mean? It means that you have to get into the habit of ridding negative thoughts and negative emotions. In my other video, I spoke about the purge and how it was natural for our bodies to go through a purge each and every night in the dream-like state. Now, if you're someone who has been cursed or you feel like you've been cursed, you may need to make a nightly practice of ridding your body of negativity. I do this by imagining that there's this black, sticky, smoky residue leaving my body. I do this repeatedly until I feel lighter, or in most cases, better. As a result, the ruminating thoughts will stop over time. And then if I do this practice continuously, they will slowly go away. So anyway, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think. What do you think about spirits and ghosts and hauntings and his house? Also, let me know if you had any experience with feeling like you were cursed. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and get your free Audible today. Just click on the link in the description area below.